The war in Ukraine. Some people stay because they go out and pursue a master's degree.
I think this is backwards.
Going to sub.
This is the BCA. It's Iris is.
Oh, to get back in.
Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. I hereby call the Elections and Campaign Finance Subcommittee to order. Clerk, would you open the board for roll call? And if everybody would push their P and V that are here. And give time for Chairman Wright to sign in. Representative Powell is in the room. I'll hold it open until he's checked in. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Chairman, you have 6 present.
Thank you. Do any members have any personal orders before we begin? Seeing none. Today we have 3 bills on our calendar. First up is, let's see, HB number 1 is HB 0653 by Representative Hicks. We have a motion and a second. And please tell us about your bill. And I also believe we have 3 speakers if you need them. Okay, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you. House Bill 653 is addressing and accomplishing several different items. It is also modernizing and updating old systems. This is also putting procedures into code that has been protocol for some time. House Bill 653 also gives flexibility to staff so they can conduct investigations to sworn complaints or to immediately set such sworn complaints for show cause hearings without the need for an auditor investigation. thereby decreasing the need to refer all such investigations to the state attorney general. There are a few points of this bill that's important. It requires all political campaign committees registered with the Registry of Election Finance to pay an annual $150 registration fee to help offset the cost incurred by the registry in regulating these political campaign committees. This fee is similar to the fees paid by lobbyists. This bill also eliminates both individual and aggregate limits for political campaign committees controlled by a political party or by a caucus of such political party established by members of either house of the General Assembly, recognizing that the political campaign committee controlled by a political party serves different and distinct purposes than other registered political campaign committees, and allows the political party to fully coordinate its campaign efforts with the party's candidate running for office in the state or local election. House Bill 653 also requires that 80% of the annual professional privilege tax paid by registered lobbyists be allocated to the budget of the Bureau of Ethics and Campaign Finance for the purposes of enhancing the Bureau's current information technology platform and website to further offset the cost of the Bureau in performing its responsibilities. This money currently goes to the general fund, and the current technology platform is over 15 years old, so it is very, very well needed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and there's folks here from the campaign finance folks, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that we can.
All right. Is there any questions? Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question looking over this, the unitemized, I believe, is 100 and it goes to 250. Is that correct? Contributions?
I think it's, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is correct.
Okay. It doesn't change the, so if one individual was to give, say, $125, that individual would or would not have to be disclosed? Would not?
Thank
Go
you,
ahead,
Mr. Chairman. It would not.
Okay, but if 3 individuals gave $125 each, then those would have to be disclosed, correct?
All right, we'll go out of session and have Director Young and his staff, Lance Frizzell and Laura Topping, come up. Welcome. I think they do it up here now. The buttons don't work anymore except up here.
Good to know, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, Chair, members of the committee. I think the question from Representative Powell was on unitemized.
Need to state your names for the record.
I'm sorry. I apologize, Mr. Chair. I'm Bill Young, the Executive Director of the Bureau of Ethics and Campaign Finance. To my left is our Assistant Director, Lance Frizzell. To my right is our General Counsel, Lauren Topping. Moving to the question you have, Representative Powell, I believe you're talking about how you report unitemized contributions. This bill doesn't address that. A couple of years ago, there was a bill that the General Assembly had passed that limited unitemized contributions to a total of $2,000. You could report in any particular period up to $2,000, but beyond that, you had to itemize. Our recommendation, to be quite honest, is that you just going forward, even though you've got that cushion, just itemize all contributions. And the reason for that is that bill that was passed by the General Assembly currently in law says that if those $2,000 in contributions you unitemize constitute 30% or more of your total contributions, you get an automatic audit from us. And quite frankly, you don't want to have an automatic audit from us. We've got one auditor. He's got lots to do because of the statutory audits. So our recommendation on the itemized contributions is to report all the detail for all of them. But you still do have a cushion But this bill does not affect that in any way. It doesn't address that.
Okay.
Follow-up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. My apologies. And somehow I've misplaced my folder for this committee somewhere, rushing in between meetings. So I don't have it in front of me, but as long as it doesn't change any of the minimum, I mean, I know if you give over $100, you've got to, it doesn't change any of that.
No,
Okay.
doesn't affect that at all.
Okay, thank you.
While you're there, you're mainly is explain the fund that while you normally would be paid out of the general fund, you're just transferring it over and explain how you're doing that. Because I
Correct.
don't think fiscal review quite understands what you're doing.
Correct. And really, I have to give the Lobbyist Association some credit on this. This was a suggestion that came from them as we're looking at our system now is Representative Hicks says is over 15 years, actually over 20 years old. This is an IT system that, in 20 years in the IT world, it's almost 200 years. I mean, system needs to be overhauled. We've looked at that. We know the total cost is around $3 million to overhaul it, plus an annual maybe $500,000 to $800,000 of maintenance is what we're looking at. And so what this bill does, we've got a reserve of about $2 million towards that. This bill would take $250,000 from the professional privilege tax paid by lobbyists who actually benefit from this system and allocate that to us primarily to be used to redo our IT systems. It is what's called an earmark. I think the bill does have a nice red flag on it from the governor's office. We have talked to the administration about that, and they understand the need for it. And certainly we will be working through that, but we do need that money in order to begin the process of moving to a new system. We've already talked to other states and to possible contractors about how much that would be. Georgia did this about 3 years ago, cost them $3 million. And 500,000, I think, every year in maintenance. So that's what we're looking at. We got a lot of complaints coming in about our current system. It is, all of you use it, it's a little bit clunky. We try to help you as much as we can. Fortunately, we have great staff that are able to do that. So I hope that's a long answer to your question, Mr. Chairman, but that's what we're proposing today.
Mr. Bricken?
I'm down here.
Yeah, you're usually down there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, I have not we've not spoken about this bill, so I'm kind of looking at it for the first time. A couple of general questions. First of all, campaign committees. Individual candidate committees and PACs both going to be affected?
No, the only political campaign committees impacted by this legislation are those controlled by a political party or a caucus of a political party, as Representative Hicks stated. And let me explain how it works under current law. And there is some confusion under current law, which is why we're bringing the bill. Under current law, there are individual and aggregate limits for political campaign committees. There's a question as to what those limits are for political campaign committees that are controlled by either a political party or political caucus. When we started thinking about this, clarifying what those limits were, well, we thought, well, really political parties and political caucuses are designed for one purpose and one purpose only, to help the candidates. Under current law, the way it works, if you go past the limits you can give to a candidate, then you can no longer coordinate with that candidate. You can continue to spend, they're called independent expenditures. As long as you don't coordinate with the candidate, you can spend as much as you want under the U.S. Supreme Court decision in Citizens United. What this bill does is say, well, why should we prohibit political parties and political caucuses from coordinating with their candidates? We should just allow that coordination to go forward regardless of the amount that they give. They can give it today, but they've got to not coordinate once they hit the limit. So we just thought this was important, recognizing that these parties and caucuses serve different purposes than most political campaign committees, and it does not apply to leadership political campaign committees. So they would still have those individual and aggregate limits that other political campaign committees has.
Mr. Bricken?
But the $150 of annual registration fee, that's currently zero for these campaigns?
That's correct, Representative Bracken. What happened is this General Assembly has twice now passed a statute that would impose a registration fee on political campaign committees. In both of those cases, there were exemptions. It didn't cover all political campaign committees. There were minor exemptions. In both cases, the courts, unfortunately, and to be quite honest, I'll go on record, I think the courts were wrong on this. They said that that bill was, that those statutes weren't constitutional. We think we remedy this problem by imposing the $150 registration fee on each and every political campaign committee that's registered with us. There are no exceptions. And the philosophy is the same as lobbyists and employers are lobbyists. They should pay a small amount to help us offset the total cost of having this transparency, of having this information put on our website. Again, we've talked to the Lobbyists Association about this. They back this principle, and we think it can withstand a lawsuit. We talked about imposing the same fee on candidates, but quite honestly, we want to encourage folks to run in this state. The Secretary of State's very strong in that. We had a conversation about it. And for that reason, because we want to encourage folks to run for office, we did not impose this fee on candidates. Or the bill.
If I can. The fiscal note says there's 700 political campaign committees. I'm just shocked at that number. But it will generate over in subsequent years about $105,000. Is that 105 also included in that 209 of the 261 coming with the lobbyist money?
That would be an addition. And the reason for that is it's $3 million to do a new system. We currently have $2 million in reserve, so we're $1 million short. Plus the estimates we're hearing from Georgia and our contractors in other states, somewhere between $500,000 to $800,000 to administer. So this money would help us in offsetting that cost, hopefully completely offsetting it, and would help us perhaps get us another auditor as well. We only have one auditor, as you know, under the statute. Our office is required to do statutory audits. 4% of lobbyists, I believe it's 4% of House members or candidates as well. So a number of audits we have to do every year, and we're just quite simply falling behind. Jay Mock does an excellent job with us, our director of audit, but he needs a little help. We did have him some help when I first got there. That gentleman left, and we found out very quickly that the cost of auditors has gone up. So we don't have the money to hire them right now. This would help us do that.
I'm fine. Thank you.
Good
Okay.
questions.
Mr.
Thank you,
Powell?
sir.
Thank you. And just want to commend Jay and your entire office. I know
Thank
he does really good work, and we needed a question. He's answered it for us briefly. I mean, quickly and briefly. One thing I had a follow up on is the not needing to, I guess, when you said get the district attorney involved or like for the investigation part. I've encountered a situation. I've had numerous campaigns in my county where people will put out signs that are they have a disclosure, but then they don't show up on the report, or they'll never file any sort of campaign. In that situation, would this allow then a voter to lodge a complaint to your office? And then rather than having to do the audit step, you could have eventually have that candidate come in and give a sworn statement of what they've done and how they got those signs or how those were paid for.
Yeah.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Let me answer it twofold, Representative Powell. First, on the campaign signs themselves, on the disclosure information is required to be on those signs. If that's not there, that does not fall into the jurisdiction of our office.
Mm-hmm.
That really is a misdemeanor under current law and would be prosecuted by the local district attorney. We get a lot of calls on that. And we generally will refer it to the local district attorney. If, however, there's a reporting requirement that's not met and someone's paying for those signs and not following the appropriate information with our office, then there is a process for a Tennessee citizen to file a sworn complaint with our office that the registry board would hear. What the bill does is give the registry board more tools in its tool chest to deal with those sworn complaints. Under current law, generally what happens, whether it's the registry board or the ethics commission on a sworn complaint, is they will refer it to the attorney general for investigation. And unfortunately, the attorney general has advised us that's not really their game. They don't really have the resources to do that. So it takes a while to get those investigations done. This bill allows us additional tools. We can internally do the investigation. We can just set it for a show cause and let the parties come up and explain whether there's been a campaign violation or not without having the investigation. Of course, we can always do an audit. So it puts more tools in the toolbox, that provision.
And I appreciate that and support it. I've run into a dead end with a lot of these where, people reach out to the district attorney, it's gone nowhere. And so, hopefully some of these cases we get to the bottom of it more quickly. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. And I understand the frustration. The local DAs have a lot on their plate.
And there any other questions while we're out of session? Seeing none, we'll go back into session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I also want to say thank you for our sponsor.
Mr. Hicks, ball's back in your court.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I would ask that Representative Powell and Representative Brick could switch their nameplates because it's really confusing for me right now. So I would appreciate that. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I was in one committee 2 weeks ago and they had me Pearson. So
thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll renew my motion. I'll be happy to.
we had a question. Mr. Moon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
Well, I did not know that. Seeing no objections, we are taking the vote on HB 0653, moving on to state and local full. All those in favor, vote A. Opposed, vote nay. Please take the vote. Let's see here. All members voted. Take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes.
Thank you. Bill passes and let's see, moves on to state and local full, HB 0653. Thank you. Next up on the agenda is Representative Warren, HB 722. Have a motion and a second.
Thank you,
Please,
Mr. Chairman and committee.
Please tell us about your bill.
House Bill 722, this legislation seeks, is intended to eliminate the redundancy and replace the statute with the current NVRA guidelines, placing them in the TCA that deals with voter list, roll maintenance, purging of voters as outlined in the TCA 2-2-106.
And that is what it does. It's pretty simple. Let's see, who is Mr. Powell? You're up to bat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you explain to me what the current problem is or why this isn't being currently implemented already?
Well, it's my understanding in code that you find where this is talked about 2 or 3 different places in our TCA, and this would put it all in under one section.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I asked Director Goins, he had no objections to it. It more or less does what we're doing now, but it does arrange it so it's, I guess, more simplified, and it's still in line with federal requirements. Any other questions on the bill? Seeing none, we will be voting on HB 0722 to move it on to state and local full. All those in favor, vote A, yay, and opposed, nay. Please vote on the board. All right, Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes.
Thank you. The bill passes 7-0. HB 072 moves on to state and local full. And let's see, you're out on number 3. We rolling it? Okay, we can take care of it then. Thought you'd requested that. Item number 3, HB 0139 by Warren has been requested to roll 1 week. No objections? Seeing none, rolled 1 week. Well, before we close today, did anyone have any messages? Anything to say? Seeing none, if I hear a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.